about poultry farming. All right. Now, poultry farming is done for egg production, and these are called as layers, and chicken meat that they are called as broilers. So, what all does poultry farming include? It is crossbreeding again to get a better hybrids, egg and broiler production, and poultry diseases. So, let us see about crossbreeding. Again, the cross-breeding programs between Indian indigenous varieties, for example, a seal. Can you see these photographs of these hens here? They are the seal, and these are the exotic varieties which are called as leghorns. All right. So the number and quality, now the crossbreeding is done between the indigenous varieties like these asil with the exotic varieties of foreign breeds. Now again the reason is the same. The yield of the foreign varieties is more, but the indigenous varieties are resistant to diseases. So when you have an hybrid, you do a crossbreeding and you have an hybrid, it will be, it will have the characters of both the parents. That means it will be high yielding as well as it will be able to produce more yield, and it will be disease resistant also. The other characters that are number for improvement are focused to develop new varieties for the following traits, that is number and quality of the chicks, drop broiler parent for commercial chick production, summer adaptation capacity, tolerance to high temperature, low maintenance requirements, and reduction in the size of the egg laying bird with the ability to utilize more fibrous, cheaper diets formulated using agricultural byproducts. So, the egg layers are given the farm waste so that they can feed on those grains and produce protein rich eggs. All right. So now we'll see the egg and broiler production. The broiler chickens are fed with vitamin-rich supplements which feed for good growth rate and better feed efficiency. Care is taken to avoid mortality and to obtain feathering and carcasses quality. The daily food requirement for broilers is protein rich with adequate fat. See, broilers are for meat production, so they need to grow. They grow for 6 to 8 weeks and then they are sold, and they need to have adequate fat. So they are given a lot of protein, fat in their diet, and a lot of vitamin A and K is also kept high because these vitamins are required for the absorption of fats. Then good production practices, that is maintenance of temperature and hygienic conditions in housing and poultry feeding, prevention and control of diseases and pests. So all these are the important practices for getting better yield. Now, the poultry also suffers from diseases. What are the diseases? Poultry fowl suffers from a number of diseases caused by virus, bacteria and fungi, parasites, as well as from nutritional deficiencies. These necessitate proper cleaning, sanitation and spraying of disinfectants at regular intervals. Appropriate vaccination can prevent the occurrence of infectious diseases and reduce loss of poultry during an outbreak of diseases. Now children, if you have noticed, the dairy farm management and poultry farm management is almost the same, where we are concerned with the housing facilities, keeping clean of the environment and the animal, and also the proper vaccination of the, so there are certain practices that are common both to dairy management and poultry management. Now we come to fish production. Now you know that children, the coastal areas of India, fish is a staple diet. So fish is an important part of the food, and therefore we need to study in improvement of food resources, how we can increase the yield of fish production. There are two ways that we can do that. One is to get that from the fish from the natural sources, that is capture fishing. So you capture the fishes that are growing in natural sources. And second, by fish farming. Yes, children, fish farming is also done, which is also called as culture fishery, the water source of fishes can be seawater, that's marine, or fresh water like rivers, ponds, lakes, etc. So children, you can capture fishes from the seawater, or you can do that from the fresh water. So let us study the marine fisheries and inland fisheries. Now, marine fisheries. Popular marine fish varieties include pomfret, mackerel, tuna, sardine, and Bombay duck. Catching fishes. Marine fish are caught using many kinds of fishing nets from fishing boats. Yields are increased by locating large schools of fish in the open sea using satellites and echo sounders. There are some high economic value marine fishes also, and these are finned fishes like mullets, betki, and pearl spots, and shell fishes. Now, see, children, even though it is called a fish, it's actually not a fish. It belongs to the phylum Arthropoda, and so they are and also the molluscans for shellfishes such as prawns, mussels, and oysters. And you have seaweeds also, which are part of marine fisheries. And oysters are also cultivated for the pearls they make. You know, children, that oysters make pearls. So oysters also, and they have high economic value. So the oysters are also cultivated for pearls they have. Now let's see what is mariculture. Mariculture is a specialized branch of aquaculture involving the cultivation of marine organisms for food and other products in the open ocean and enclosed sections. Can you see these nets here? All right. So the fishes using the marine water are cultured like this. So this is called as mariculture. An enclosed section of the oceans or in tanks, ponds, or raceways which are filled with seawater. So seawater, if it is tank, then it is filled with seawater, or these such kind of areas are enclosed and the seawater is used to culture fishes. Then we come to inland fisheries. Now, what is inland fisheries? When the water source is fresh water, that includes ponds, canals, reservoirs, and estuaries, and brackish water sources such where sea water and fresh water mix together, such as estuaries and lagoons, are important fish reservoirs. While capture fishing is also done in such inland water bodies, the yield is not high. Most fish production is through aquaculture. Now, aquaculture includes mariculture also, and aquaculture means culturing of fish, fish farming, and also aquatic plants. Fish culture is sometimes done in combination with rice crop so that fish are grown in the water in the paddy field. Now this kind of fish culture, this is integrated farming, was done very earlier in China, and it is done now in other places also. The farmer gets double produce, gets rice also while harvesting, and also the fish. Another important aspect is composite fish culture system. Now in this, a combination of 5 or 6 fish species are used in a single pond, fish pond. These species are selected so that they do not compete for food among them, having different types of food habits. As a result, the food available in all the parts of the pond is used. For example, so in this, what is happening in one pond itself, you are farming different fishes. So the yield is different of different fishes. And what is taken care of? It's taken care that the fishes that you put in the pond have different areas of feeding, all right, so that they do not compete with each other. For example, katlas are surface feeders, roes feed in the middle zone, mrigals and common carps are bottom feeders, and grass carp feed on the weeds. So none of them are in the others each other's space, and they do not compete with each other. This increases the fish yield from the pond. Okay, so with this we'll see a video.
Fish is a cheap source of animal protein for our food. Fish production includes the finned true fish as well as shellfish such as prawns and molluscus. It is done by two methods: capture fishing from natural resources and fish farming, which is called culture fishery. Marine fisheries. Popular marine fish varieties include pomfret, mackerel, tuna, sardines, and Bombay duck. Marine fish are caught using many kinds of fishing nets from fishing boats. Island fisheries. Freshwater, ponds, and reservoirs are the rich sources to obtain fish. Fish culture is sometimes done in the combination with a rice crop so that the fish are grown in the water in the paddy field. Let us understand about the composite fish culture systems. A combination of 5 or 6 fish species is used in a single fish pond. These species are selected so that they do not compete for food with each other, having different types of food habits. As the cattlers are surface feeders, rohus feed in the middle zone of the pond, mirigals and common carps are bottom feeders, and grass carps feed on the weeds. These species can use all the food in the pond without competing with each other.
Okay, children, so I hope you all enjoyed the video. And before we start with the next topic, and that is beekeeping, I would want you to see another video that is on beekeeping.
Beekeeping. Apiculture is derived from honeybees, whose Latin name is Apis mellifera, and the meaning honey gatherer. Since bees do not collect honey, but nectar from which honey is made, the actual scientific name should be Apis mellifica, that means honey maker. In addition to honey, the beehives are a source of which is used in operations. Bees collect pollen and nectar. Pollen is the protein source needed for bee brood development, while nectar is the carbohydrate source providing energy. The local varieties of bees used for commercial honey production are Apis cerana indica, commonly known as the Indian bee, Apis dorsata, the rock bee, and Apis florii, the little bee. An Italian bee variety, Apis mellifera, has also been bought in to increase the yield of honey. Advantages of Apis mellifera. The Italian bees have high honey collection capacity. They sting somewhat less. They stay in a given beehive for long periods and breed very well.
Okay, children, I think you must have enjoyed the video. So this is composite fish culture. You see how there is katla fish, there is rohu, there is common carp, mrigal, and these are the grass carp, which are the wheat feeders. All right. So this is about composite fish culture system. Now, for composite fish culture system has advantages. That means different species have different feeding habits, so they do not compete amongst themselves. They are fast growing species, and total production of fishes is very high and the cost production is less. Now, the problems that are faced in composite fish culture system is there is a need of proper management. Lack of management leads to species loss. The fishes breed only during monsoon, and that is why you do not get the seeds or the eggs of the fishes. There is a lack of availability of good quality stock. To avoid this problem, then hormone stimulation is done. That means, what is hormone stimulation? That means the hormones are injected into the fish so that they can super ovulate. Now we've just saw a video on beekeeping. I'm sure you liked it. Now beekeeping is done to obtain two things. One is honey and wax. Honey is used as a source for many medicinal uses also, and wax is used in medicinal preparations and for polishes. The local variety of the bees used for commercial honey production is Apis cerana indica. You saw the picture of Apis cerana. Here is Apis cerana indica. And then you have the rock bee, which is called as Apis dorsata. And you have the little bee, which is called as Apis florae. Now there is an Italian bee which has been introduced, which is called as Apis mellifera. And the reason is because it gives you higher yield variety, and they also have other characteristic features. Not only does it give you high honey collection capacity, but it also stings less, and they also remain in a beehive for a longer periods of time. So you see how the beehives are here. This is a natural beehive, and here in an apiary you see that how these beehives are constructed. Okay. Now, value of honey. The value or quality of the honey depends upon the pasturage. Now, what is pasturage? These are lands where the grass or some plants are growing with flowers, or the flowers that are available to the bees for nectar and pollen collection. In addition to the adequate quantity of pasturage, the kind of flowers available will determine the taste of the honey. So it always depends upon the type of flowers that are present in the nearby, because the bees are going to collect the nectar and pollens from that area only. So the nectar that is collected from certain flowers have the quality of those that nectar, the flavor of that nectar. So therefore the value of the honey depends upon the pasturage and the flowers that are available to the bees for nectar and pollen collection. Now let's go for a quick recap. There are 13 nutrients essential for the crops. Of these, 6 are required in large quantities and are known as macronutrients, whereas the other 7 are called as required in small quantities are called as micronutrients. The manures and fertilizers help to supply the nutrients to the crops. Organic farming is where you are using the minimal of chemicals, and mostly it is the bioagents and biofertilizers are used. All right. And then we studied about the cropping patterns, the mixed cropping pattern. Then we had the intercropping pattern, growing 2 or more crops in definite row patterns, and crop rotation, where in a planned succession manner the crops were planted, so that the farmer gets a harvest of 2 to 3 crops in 1 year. Varietal improvement, that means how the variety is improved and for what characters. Variety can be improved by hybridization and genetic manipulation, and they are the characters that are required, or the ones are higher yield, good quality, biotic and abiotic resistance. These are the characters you would hybridize or genetically manipulate the crop plants. Shortening the maturity duration, wider adaptability and desirable agronomic characteristics. Then the farm animals require proper care and management, such as shelter, feeding, breeding, and disease control. And this entire thing is called as animal husbandry. Poultry farming is done to raise domestic pearls, and this includes egg production and broiler production for poultry meat. To enhance poultry production, crossbreeding is done between Indian and exotic breeds for variety improvement. Okay, now then fish can be obtained from marine resources as well as inland resources. To increase production of fish, they can be cultured in marine and inland ecosystems. Marine fish culture is done by fishing nets guided by eco sounders and satellites. Composite fish culture system is commonly used for fish farming. Beekeeping is done for honey and wax. So with this, we end our session of learning learning the improvement of food resources. Students, I hope that you have understood the chapter and will be well prepared with what you've learned today. So you just need to, you don't need to memorize, just go through the chapter as I have taught you. It's very interesting and very easy chapter. So children, stay safe and happy learning. So this is goodbye from Mrs. Preeti Agarwal.